The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. While still more people gathered in the crowd, Jesus said to them, "This generation is an evil generation. It seeks a sign, but no sign will be given it except the sign of Jonah. Just as Jonah became a sign to the Ninevites, so will the Son of Man be to this generation. At the judgment, the Queen of the South will rise with the men of this generation, and she will condemn them, because she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and there is something greater than Solomon here. At the judgment, the men of Nineveh will arise with this generation and condemn it, because at the preaching of Jonah they repented, and there is something greater than Jonah here." The Gospel of the Lord. So Jesus is the new Adam, he's the new Moses, he's the new Abraham, he's the new Jonah, he's the new Solomon. He is greater than all of those Old Testament characters, renews them, elevates their what they came and established. And he gives two examples today. Jonah, and we heard about Jonah in the first reading. Jonah was sent to preach to the Ninevites, and we have to understand the whole Jonah story to understand how it significantly impacts the gospel this morning. And remember, Jonah was called by God to go preach to the Ninevites. He said no. He ran away, literally ran away in the other direction, got on a ship to go to the ends of the earth, to Timbuktu. Anyway, as he was running away, his ship hit the storm, and they figured out it's because you're running from God that we're having this difficulty. They threw him overboard. So what happens to Jonah? Jonah is dead. He's swallowed by the great fish. He's in the belly of the fish for 3 days. Okay, maybe he's alive in the belly of the fish, but it's a symbol of death. And then he's spit out on the shore 3 days later, and he's alive again. So when Jesus says, the only sign you're going to get is the sign of Jonah, he's talking about his resurrection. He's talking about his resurrection. After 3 days in the tomb, he's going to come back to life, and the people are still going to do what? They're still going to reject him. He's saying there's no sign good enough for you. Your heart is closed. It's not about another sign. It's not about another miracle. Jesus is doing miracles left and right. He's multiplying the loaves. He's raising Lazarus. He's walking on water. He's healing the blind. He's healing the lame. His miracles are everywhere. We want to see another trick. Do a trick for us. Jesus is like, there's no satisfying you people. There's no satisfying you. Now, what about us? Now, are we gathered here this morning, as I like to say, to mock and belittle those people that encounter Jesus? Or are we here to recognize that we have the same nature that they do, that needs to be healed and elevated, to hear the prophetic word of Jonah? What is a prophetic word anyway? Really, ultimately, prophecy is truth. Jesus is the way and the truth and the life. We must have this fundamental, deep, interpersonal, and absolute, in our person, I should say, desire for the truth. There is something in us, like a tuning fork, that resonates with the truth. And when we hear the truth, it should line up. But then we have this weak old flesh And this weak old flesh wants to turn away from the truth. And so we have this thing happening. So who's the queen of the south? The queen of the south heard about the wisdom of Solomon, and she rode 1,000 miles to come hear Solomon. And Jesus says, I'm even wiser than Solomon. If you hear me, you hear wisdom. So my brothers and sisters, the signs that Jesus gives in our own life, the preaching of truth that Jesus gives us in our own life, the Word of God, we must this day seek to put to death the deeds of the flesh and rise above them and hear and respond to the gift of truth. So Jesus is the sign of Nineveh. Jesus is a greater preacher than Solomon. May we this day receive the gift of grace, and in that grace live a life of faith in the way and the truth and the life.